Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. It's good to see all of you. For those of you who can turn your cameras on, thank you. We encourage that. If you're in a situation where you can't turn your camera on, that's perfectly fine. Um, Welcome to Making Connections. This is our spring series at Reimagine. My name is Andy Engel, and I lead virtual public programs here at Reimagine. And if this is your first Reimagine event, thank you for coming. We're glad you're here. Reimagine is a nonprofit organization catalyzing a uniquely powerful community, people of different backgrounds, different ages, different races, different ethnicities, different sexual orientations, different gender identities, people of faith, people of no faith, all coming together to support each other in facing adversity, loss, and mortality, and to transform life's biggest challenges into meaning and growth. Loneliness, of course, is one of the greatest challenges we're facing today, and we'll get into that more soon. Reimagine resources, support groups, gatherings like this one today are made possible through your support. They're free, they're sliding scale. So for those of you who already made a tax-deductible donation to Reimagine, thank you so much. Last month, we kicked off this series with 25 amazing speakers. You'll hear from two of them in more depth today. And they shared their innovative projects to mitigate the loneliness epidemic. These are projects that utilize art, they utilize books, they utilize food. There are block parties, there are barbershops, there are playgrounds, sheds with tools to tinker with. We have memory cafes for folks with dementia and their caregivers, online spaces where people play games. I highly encourage you all to take a look at that recording. And my colleague Trina Williams, who is here with us today, can share that in the chat where you can find the events and the recordings. Today, our focus is on intergenerational connection. Next month, in June, our focus is on third places. Now, what is a third place? It's not home, it's not work. It's a place in your community where you might form some kind of relationship with another person, even if it's momentary. It could be a public square, it could be a coffee house, it could be a bookstore. And in the virtual world, Reimagine, of course, is a good example of a third place. So thank you for being here. This is a series about making connections. So I want to give you all an opportunity to make a connection. So please start using the chat. Tell us all where you're zooming in from. And I invite you to briefly describe a significant intergenerational connection or relationship you've had in your life. And I have one with my friend Jeff. He's 84 and makes a point of surrounding himself with folks who are 1 to 2 generations younger than him. Finally, the conversation that you'll hear today with Allison Gilbert, Donna Griffin, and Renee Mitchell will be 40 minutes or so. You'll learn more about these folks shortly. Then we're going to take some questions from the chat. So please, as you listen in and hear from our speakers, if a question occurs to you, please start putting those questions into the chat. I'm going to field those to our speakers as we get to the end of the hour. And after this 1 hour conversation, you are all invited to stay for breakout rooms. We'd like to practice what we preach with this series and use this gathering to foster more meaningful connections among folks who are concerned about the loneliness epidemic and they want to make a difference in their own lives and in their communities. So please stick around for that. Finally, in a day or two, you'll get a link for this recording and information about all of our speakers. And now, I'd like to introduce our host, Allison Gilbert. Allison is an Emmy Award-winning journalist and author. She's a longtime Reimagine collaborator. And with the late, great Dr. Ruth Westheimer, she co-authored the book, The Joy of Connections. Allison, please take it away.
I am so happy to be here as I always am. I'm always honored to be called a long-time collaborator with Reimagine because it's my happy place, Andy. So thank you for having me. I am thrilled. In April, you mentioned that we had this remarkable event where we featured 25 of the most exceptional innovators tackling the loneliness epidemic in 2025. Two of those remarkable leaders are with us today, so we can learn more, dig deeper, which I am so excited to do.
Excited to do
A few
a few
housekeeping
housekeeping
things.
things.
And I
And
wonder
I
if you
wonder,
can kill the microphone, the feedback. Do you hear that, Andy? All right, hold on. He says, hold on. All right, I'm going to keep talking. Hopefully, it'll get resolved, but thank you so much. What we are going to do today to foster connection, as Andy said, please put in the chat where you are calling in from. Please put in the chat if there is an intergenerational connection that has meant a lot to you. And I'm going to start there myself. We began the Making Connection series because of my amazing international, well, not just international, she was born in Germany, but my intergenerational connection with the late, great Dr. Ruth Westheimer. Please put in the chat if you remember the late, great Dr. Ruth. She and I together wrote a book alongside her longtime publicist. It came out the very end of last year. It's called The Joy of Connections. And during my time working with Dr. Ruth, I felt so lucky. I was pinching myself because she was 95 years old when we first met. She was 95 years old when she campaigned to become New York State's first ambassador to loneliness. And so this topic about connections is just near and dear to my heart. And she became just so important to me, I must say. She would have turned 97, mark your calendars, this coming June 4th. So we honor her today. The goal with the Joy of Connections, just to set up this conversation a little bit more deeply, was never to interrogate why someone was lonely. It's very similar to how Dr. Ruth approached her work as a behavioral therapist. People would come to see her for their sex problems, their sexuality issues, and she didn't want to go do a deep dive into their childhood. You came with a sex problem, she would fix the sex problem. So that is very similar to how we are approaching this conversation about loneliness today. You are arriving here today because maybe you are feeling socially disconnected. We are not going to ask why, but we're going to help solve. So that's kind of why I wanted to give that brief preview of this conversation today. Donna Griffin, I'm so excited you are here. Dr. S. Renee Mitchell, I am so glad you are here. You're going to hear about these wonderful leaders now. And then, as Andy said, you will have time to do two things. Number one, you will have time to ask questions. Please jot them down while we're talking so we can make sure to answer them. You are here for a reason. You have something on your mind. These are two of the 25 most important leaders who are tackling the social isolation challenge that we are all facing. So use this opportunity to your advantage. The next part about that is going to be an opportunity to stay longer, which is new for making connections so you can actually get into community and talk and work together to potentially collaborate or just learn. So I want to start with Donna. Donna, back in 2020, Eldera was founded. Eldera is short for, or it's, inspired by the era of the elders. And you are leveraging AI to build connections between an older generation and a younger generation. And that's really compelling to me because in the research we did for the Joy of Connections, loneliness is most acute if you think about a U curve. On one side of the U at the top are kids, teens, young people. At the other side of the U are older Americans. You are doing something about this. Tell us about Eldera and how you are using AI to help end this loneliness epidemic.
Thank you for having me. I'm really honored to be here. Thank you, Allison, and to join all of you today. So let me tell you a little bit about Eldera. Eldera was born out of my childhood story, my intergenerational story. So I was born in Transylvania and Romania. Yeah, that's where my accent's coming from. And I was raised by my grandparents. And I moved to the States for university, alone with one suitcase, in 2001. And I continued to find older adults who looked after me, and mentored me and gave me advice on anything from how to start my first bank account to how to get scholarships to how to find a good apartment. You name it, I knew who to go to. So I ended up staying in the United States, starting my career here, building my career continuously surrounded by older adults. And what I've realized throughout that process is that um, I was in a way unique in doing that. I assumed everyone went to older adults for help and support, and that was actually not the case. So I founded Eldera because I wanted to celebrate every older adult out there who has helped me and make sure that every young person out there has access to someone to guide them and take care of them. So that was the foundation of Eldera. And Allison, you mentioned that Eldera stands for the era of the elders, and it does. And what we believe is that older adults and the time and wisdom of older adults is a new natural resource that can help solve some of the biggest generational issues that we have and societal issues that we have. And we are starting with loneliness. But I want to clarify something. Everyone talks. Thank you for mentioning the U curve between older adults and young people. So it's true, older adults are lonely. 1 in 3 older adults are lonely, according to the World Health Organization. And that's really bad because it increases risk of dementia by 30%. It increases mortality. It increases healthcare costs. It's bad. What's worst is that over 40% of youth are also lonely. So there are more young people who are lonely than older adults. So at Aldera, we're not trying to um, solve the situation for everyone, but what we're trying to do is realize that older adults, even when they're lonely, they have developed some coping mechanisms, and the best coping mechanism for loneliness is purpose. So we asked older adults to help young people be less lonely, to come in and give their time and wisdom to a young person that make in a way that makes the young person's life better. And that's where Aldera comes in, and that's where AI comes in. So I'll note on AI, and then I'll turn it back to you. In today's age, when AI is used in so many different ways, and some people even use it as a therapist, we are very committed to making sure that AI never disrupts the human connection. On the contrary, that it protects the human connection, it protects humanity. So we use AI in a way that recognizes the unique wisdom of older adults and what they have to give to society, matches them with a young person or an opportunity where they can make the biggest impact, and then keeps both of them safe in those virtual conversations.
I
That's
love
the way.
that. And Donna, I'm going to ask you to drill down a little bit deeper in just a second, but I do want to bring in Dr. S. Renee Mitchell into this conversation because I'm so glad that both of you are here. Dr. Mitchell, you are the founder of I Am More. And what that stands for, I'm looking at my notes so I don't make a mistake, making ourselves resilient every day. Now, here's one piece about this. I'm going to give you an entry point that I found to be the most heartening. And I'm going to put on my glasses so I can read my notes. One of your youth leaders, her name is Jeanette, had this to say about her experiences leading at I Am More. And you deal with a lot of kids and a lot of trauma. And we know when those experiences are so raw, that precludes some young people to lean in to actually make connections. So you're going into that source area about why young kids, some may have some challenges, some headwinds making connections. Here's what Jeanette said. Loving yourself without shame is the most important thing you will ever have to fight for. And so your work with I Am More, when it comes to helping kids find connection, is actually freeing themselves to look in the mirror and love themselves first. Welcome to the conversation, Dr. Mitchell. Please help us understand this incredible mission.
Thank you so much. I'm so grateful for being here. Um, yes, I definitely work with youth, and a lot of that stems from my own experience of feeling very lonely and unseen. And that's what I think is at the core of loneliness is people don't feel seen. They don't feel like anyone cares about them. And so not only do I work with youth, but I also make sure that the youth are connected to elders who also have some of the same issues. If they don't feel seen, they don't know how to connect with other people. And I start to create environments where not only youth start to understand their own power, but also the elderly understand how much they still have to give to the world. And so I love this work. It empowers me and inspires me every day. But it also really came out of my own situation with feeling lonely. I was always a lonely kid. And so this kind of work speaks to my own healing process. And the ways that I do this work it stems from that sense of loneliness as a child. And so I want to do my work to kind of counteract that because I needed it when I was growing up, even as an adult. And so I started a whole campaign called, particularly in Portland, where there isn't a very large Black community. I started a campaign called Spreading the Black Joy Virus. And it started very simply because I was at a hardware store and I was depressed. I've suffered from depression most of my life. Wearing the mask and just feeling all alone in a line of people. They only let 5 people in at a time, right? And so I'm standing there and feeling very sorry for myself. And an older gentleman um, was walking, he was about to walk past me. And before he did that, he looked in my eyes and he nodded at me and he kept walking. That changed my entire life because I realized I was seen, that I don't know who this person is to this day, but he gave me something back to myself that let me know that I had value.
Let me amplify something that you've just said that also mirrors some of the chat already. There's been a request to define different types of loneliness. So I do want to talk about that because you can feel, as examples, lonely because you've moved to a new town and you don't know your neighbors. You don't know how to tap into a community or a third space, as Andy recommended or talked about. In fact, today on my Instagram, it's Allison Gilbert, please come join me there. I talk about third spaces today. That's literally what I just posted before we got on about third spaces. So there's that kind of loneliness. Dr. Mitchell, you talked about your own family, and I'm going to jump ahead. I wasn't going to do this now, but since there is that question and we are here together in community, I am looking, I am reading, I'm digesting and coming back to you. You said in some of your writing, tell me where I go wrong, that you grew up in a household of 8 children.
Mhm.
8. 1, 2, 3, 4. 8. And yet you never felt loved, seen, or cared for after your father's death. So again, in response to the chat, the kinds of loneliness, I talked about community. When I was talking with Dr. Ruth, I had a revelation about my own loneliness. I lost both of my parents when I was really felt too young to have lost my parents. And for me, that made me resentful of peers who still had their parents. That made me raise my kids without that tether to their maternal grandmother and grandfather. So I felt lonely, but I would never have called it lonely. That wasn't in my vocabulary yet. You know what I actually felt? Angry, resentful. And so that's how loneliness can show up too. I'm defining loneliness. We're now talking, Dr. Mitchell, about you growing up in a household where, in theory, we should feel seen and like we belong. And so, even in our families, when we don't have the support that we need, that is another form of loneliness. So, back to Donna, if I can. What's very interesting about your platform, Eldera, is that teens 13 to 17 can opt in. Older Americans can opt in, and they can both feel seen and appreciated for different reasons. So, can you walk through how you clear and vet the older Americans? How can you clear and make sure the kids are feeling like they have something to contribute? What is the process? You say, I hear about Aldera, it sounds interesting. How do you opt in and join?
Thank you for asking. Let's start with older adults. So if you are an older adult over 60, and yes, we pick 60 because we feel like that's where um, most people start to really move from success to significance. And it's completely arbitrary, and I picked it, so please roll with it. So if you're over 60 and you don't have a criminal background, because we do criminal background checks, and you have a Zoom accessible device, which today I want to jump in with something. People assume that older adults are not technologically advanced. And if you ask them, are you technologically advanced? They're like, no, 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 no. But if you ask them to Zoom, they will Zoom in a second. In fact, over 74% of older adults in America have Zoom accessible devices. So let's just put that out there. So we welcome them in. They go through a sign-up process that's very easy. They go through orientation once a week. We host a group orientation, not unlike what we're doing today, where we share the values of Eldera and the next steps, and we share videos, and we each introduce ourselves and what brought us to Eldera. So we start creating community. And then we invite people to go through an online Social Security-based background check that we've been using for 5 years with one of our incredible partners. And then they're invited to join the community of all the other older adults, and they can start making friends immediately. Once they feel comfortable in the community is when they can raise their hand and say, okay, I'm ready for a mentee. I'm ready to impact a young person's life. But in the meantime, they impact everyone else in the community, and many times they help us build the company better. So we love that. On the young people side, you mentioned 13 to 17-year-olds. Yes, 13 to 17-year-olds can sign themselves up with parental approval. Otherwise, parents can sign up their kids between 6 and 17. And why we cut it off at 17 for now is because over 18, we will start background checking the young people as well. because we have built a platform that connects the most incredible, but also some of the most vulnerable populations. So we have to make sure that we keep kids safe, we keep older adults safe, and we keep the company safe as well. So that's a little bit of the vetting process and how you join. It's very easy. You go to Aldera.ai, sign up, you go through the process, and you get to meet us and the team in the process.
Thank you for walking us through that. There's some pushback that I'm sure you get, not just unique to here, to this conversation. I don't have access, even though you say the numbers are in my favor. I don't. It's hard for me. I'm technically challenged. And I wonder out loud, you don't have to respond to this, but I'm just curious before I go to Dr. Mitchell and bring her in again. I wonder out loud, when you go to senior community centers, when you go to your public library, where there are push-in options also if you are homebound. I'm wondering out loud, again, every community is going to be different, which is why, Donna, I don't want you to respond to this because it's going to be individual for everyone. Try to think, if you feel like your hands are tied, how can you access, whether someone's coming to you or you can go, a local resource so you can also access Eldera? But here's something very interesting. Dr. Mitchell, I want to bring you in with I Am More. You do a lot of in-person intergenerational work. And your core mission is retelling your narrative. We talked about that a little bit before. When kids have gone through trauma, they may not feel worthy of these relationships. And one thing that I saw that I just love, I'm going to read it again. We tell our stories, we heal our hearts, we inspire others to do the same. And you do this not through an app, but how you do it is through listening circles. You do this through storytelling performances. You do this through workshops. Help us understand these in-person connections, where they exist, how can we take advantage of them where we may live. Help us with a greater understanding of your mission at I Am More.
Sure. So a lot of youth haven't been able to talk about their stories and what inspires them. Most of the times when they've come and worked with me, they have never spoken in public before. And so providing them those opportunities where adults are listening to young people's voices is very empowering. So we do that, and also invite elderly into our spaces just so they can have a conversation, because the elderly are lonely too in our communities, especially nowadays. So we give the elderly a platform to really share their hearts and share their wisdom. Otherwise, a lot of them just feel very, very isolated. And the attempt for I Am More is to really help inspire people and empower them to then take this whole initiative of trying to connect and doing it themselves, right? So they come through our program, but they don't have to end, what they're doing within our program. We encourage them to get out into the community and be able, and a lot of them have started their own kind of efforts and initiatives because of that. My whole hope is that I want more people to be taking on these types of opportunities to connect with other people, because so many of us are walking through the world very lonely, right? And so all it takes is one person smiling at another person that you don't know to kind of give them encouragement and reduce, even if it's a little bit, just to change someone's circumstances about how they're feeling and what they're thinking about themselves. Each one of us can do it. Doesn't have to be attached to a particular program. It's an intention. And that intention can spread like wildfire, because it created during the pandemic that occasion of that older man nodding at me, started a whole campaign about spreading joy. And so you never know, just by getting out of your own comfort zone and actually doing what you want someone else to do, which is to speak, which is to smile, which is to make you feel seen. When you are doing that for other people, you not only feel your own need to ease your loneliness, you actually ease that other person's loneliness. And it's capable, every one of us is capable of being able to do that even without a program. And so that is what I teach young people to do. They come and get fed, but their requirement is to go out and feed other people, to be able to share what they've learned, share their joy, share their sense of purpose with their community. And that's what I think keeps this going and makes it so accessible for anybody to participate in. You know, just yesterday I went to a meeting, right? I brought a bag of candy that I got for 50% off at the store, dumped the candy on the table, changed the whole environment, right? Because once again, people felt seen. You know, they don't sometimes know what it is, just but that little piece of candy that somebody said, I care about you, that's what that said, right? Without even saying it, that promotes less loneliness. You know, it could be something that we do that's very simple. So I just encourage people to think, not necessarily if you don't have a program, you could still affect people's positively and reduce their loneliness. Smile at them
Well,
on the street.
yeah, I was just going to say, we underestimate, the research shows how easy it is to make somebody else feel good. And we underestimate, the research shows, how it makes us feel good to make other people feel good. And what that
Absolutely.
could mean, just to kind of really do some concrete tactics here, that means when you go for a walk, maybe you don't have your AirPods in all the time. Your ears are open so you can say good morning to the barista. It's these little touch points that could have a little bit of connection. It's when you're in an elevator and you're within inches of another living, breathing human being. It's okay to say hi. And you're breaking that wall that now, today, while we're scrolling when we're bored, we're looking down when we're bored, we're breaking that invisible wall that now feels awkward to do. Who would have thought before the iPhone that when you walk into a box to take you from one floor to the other, that you wouldn't acknowledge the other human being standing within inches of you? But that is where some of us are. So these tactical little steps, saying good morning, acknowledging another person, meeting them eye to eye, or just a smile, they really help. And before I come back to you, Donna, which I'm going to do right now, I want to just make an announcement. So if your camera is off, if you've walked away, if you're hearing my voice, come back to the camera right now. Come back, because I have an announcement to make. In-person connection is really important to me, but so is online connection. Next Sunday, June 1st, at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, I am launching a new conversation series at the 92nd Street Y in New York City. You can come in person and have a free reception. I would love to meet you. You can join virtually. That would be awesome. And because you are here, here's the big announcement. I hope you guys can put in the link in the chat and the coupon codes. For my Reimagine friends, and Andy Engel said I've been a longtime collaborator, which is true. I have a 20% discount coupon code for anyone. So you can come in person, you can log on. The series is called Connected Lives. And I really hope you guys come, and I hope this link goes in the chat, and I hope the coupon code goes in the chat. So thank you so much. I'm so excited. So back to you, Donna. You have something that I think is so crucial that is called, I'm going to get it right. Hold on one second. For the older people, a wisdom portrait. I want one as soon as I turn 60.
You're not
I want
qualified
it.
yet.
What is a wisdom portrait? If you're over 60, how do you get one? What does that even mean? I want every single person to have this opportunity. What is it?
So thank you for asking me. So the wisdom portrait came out of a need for our company. And the need is, and many people are surprised by this. Older adults are in very high demand at Aldera. We always have a wait list of kids. When kids start mentoring with an Aldera mentor, they do not stop. I get emails from parents like, "Can you please accelerate my kids' match?" So here's what we've encountered. When parents and kids love Aldera, they tell an entire group, and a bunch of them join, which we love. When older adults love Aldera, they tell their best friend. And their best friend says, "Yeah, yeah, Allison, but you're great with kids. I'm not that great with kids. What am I going to do?" So, what we've learned is that one of the biggest issues with growing older is that people may feel invisible after a time. And they feel like, "Oh, I don't have something to give." And let me just tell you, they're wrong. They always have something to give. So we created the wisdom portrait as a response to that. So when you join Aldera, you sign up, you go through the process and get background checked. Um, we ask you a lot of questions about yourself. We want to know about your life and your stories and your superpowers, which always gets really fun answers. And then we use AI to combine all of those into a portrait of what makes you so special and unique, what you have to give to society. And we invite you to take that, remember how special you are, and then use your wisdom, not just at Aldera, but in your own community. So you mentioned before that Aldera is online. And yes, we always connect vetted older adults with young people online. And it's a very big part of connection, how we keep them safe. Also, because candidly, about a third of our members are brilliant and they have time on their hands, but they're not mobile. So we're giving them an opportunity to contribute. So that's what the wisdom portrait is. It's our way of one, saying thank you, and two, of reminding older adults specifically what parts of their wisdom they can use to make a measurable impact on society. Because, and I'll wrap it up here, when you come to Aldera, we actually don't talk about loneliness at all. Because our goal is not to make people less lonely, because that's just like less bad. Our goal is to make people connected, to find their purpose and make an impact. Because then you don't just erase loneliness, but you actually create positive impact in the person's life and in society.
Thank you so much. I want to respond before I go to Dr. Mitchell to a comment about the timing of the 92nd Street Y event just for a moment. We know that there is a conflict with Shavuot that does land with the 92nd Street Y community, and yet that is when this event is happening. I would say sign up for the event, use the discount code, get the recording so when you can watch the recording and still find the information that you need. But I appreciate the comment very much. I didn't want that to go unrecognized. Dr. Mitchell, I want to come back to you if you don't mind. You spent 25 years as a national award-winning newspaper journalist. Oh my gosh, nominated twice for the Pulitzer Prize. Hello, that is amazing. And yet, you are now using your incredible platform, not just with I Am More, but I don't want to get this wrong. You've written a children's book about bullying.
Mm-hmm.
You have written a novel about domestic violence and sexual assault. Again, many reasons why people retreat, why they retract, why they choose not to engage, either with intention or because they're just not even thinking of the reasons that they no longer choose to join. Help us understand this full complement of your work. It seems to all be coming around reasons why some people may choose to disengage and how you are empowering them to once again, if they can, lean in and find the connections that they need.
Absolutely. Um, well, some of the reasons why I have done those things is because when I am stuck in a cycle of uh, self-hate or loneliness, that's not a good thing. And so I always wanted to figure out why. Why did this happen to me? And so once I found my purpose for that thing, so, for example, as a survivor of domestic violence and sexual assault, I wrote plays. And so I educated other people and found out most people like me didn't really know much about this issue. As far as bullying, I knew that I was bullied and I just wanted to write about it and give it that purpose of educating and empowering other young people and having them sing songs about if I could be brave, I could change the world, right? And providing opportunities where other people can learn from those lessons. But also the bigger thing about the work that I do is helping other people find purpose within their own negative circumstances. So it takes out that shame, it takes out that, oh, it's just me, it takes out that sense of like feeling sorry for yourself and understanding you can now have the capacity to give other people hope through your circumstances. So I'm actually writing a book now called Trauma Ties, TIES, how a life perforated with pain poetically led me to my purpose. And it's all about understanding how the trauma that I experienced in my life has allowed me to affect positively other people's lives.
Oh, your audio just cut out, Dr.
Just
Mitchell. Your audio just cut
oh,
out. Okay, you're back. You're back.
okay. So my intention is to take some of the negative things that have caused depression, that have caused me to go internal, that have caused loneliness, and write about them and what I learned from them. And so what it does is it gives that point of negativity a real purpose to help inspire and empower other people and let them know that they're not alone in feeling the same way that you have felt. And so that is how I've been able to get beyond some of the negative things that have happened to me, is by using them as a point of how can I empower and inspire other people to own their own stories, to know that they're not alone in that circumstance that they had gone through. And so that's how I use my reading and make it more than just, oh, this negative thing happened to me, and into, oh, let me share how this thing helped me do this thing, help me open up a domestic violence organization, help me do community healing ceremonies, raise my sensitivity about how other people are moving through life.
You have me
So,
at hello. You know, of course, that I writing from a place of pain because I feel that is healing,
yes.
but with the goal, which is different than journaling or a diary, of sharing that story with others so then they can see themselves reflected in that work. I launched a company called Pub
Right.
Day, like what's your publication day, your pub day, to help other writers do exactly what you are describing. So I love what you are talking about. Before we go to Andy and bring him in to get questions from the chat, I want to encourage you to put your questions in the chat so we know what they are. But before I do that, while you're getting your thoughts together, I'm big on this not being a time-bound event where you feel that whenever you have to go, you didn't get what you need, that you want to keep connected. So listen up. Here is how to continue being in touch with me, with Dr. Mitchell, with Donna Griffin. Here, you're going to want to take this down, or we'll put it in the chat too, but here we go, because we're all about connections here. Okay, Donna, your website is eldera.ai,
Yes.
Eldera, eldera.ai. You're also on Instagram. You're at eldera.ai, so easy. Dr. Mitchell, I am more resilient.com. IamMoreResilient.com. Maybe you'll be more resilient if you go check out your website. I don't know. And then on Instagram, it is I am more resilient. So again, you guys have lined up your branding perfectly. I am at It's Allison Gilbert on Instagram. And I would love to keep in touch too after we get off this Zoom because we want to stay connected. Andy Engel, I'm going to throw it back to you for the questions.
I'm struggling for questions. I
Oh,
have
good. Well, I have more.
but I did find an interesting comment that I'd like to turn into a question. And it's really to the three of you on a more personal level. Someone made a comment, making friends online and meeting people on Zoom is not a substitute for being with people in person. Um, Based on what the three of you have described so far, I'm curious in your own personal lives, how are you three finding the balance of doing the online connecting and doing the in-person connecting?
It's such a great question. Donna, you want to kick us off? Do you feel comfortable?
Of course, of course. Thank you. Um, I think there's different types of online connection. So I see in the chat social media, and social media wasn't started to be bad or to affect people negatively, but it does. Research shows that social media can and does make people feel more lonely. Then there are online connections that are like this, or even better, one-on-one, one-on-two, where you actually can have a deep personal conversation with someone. Here's what we've learned. We've learned that when people feel connected like this and they feel like they're making an impact, it gives them a little more courage to go outside and in their own community and in their own schools and talk to strangers and talk to people and make their lives better. So I think that if you can make online connections as the entry point to remembering how useful you are to society and how much people appreciate talking to you, then hopefully you carry that in your everyday life. And that's what we see very much at Aldera, not just on the older adult side, but on the young people side. So what we've learned is that young people gain confidence through their Aldera mentors, because if they can form a bond with a person of a different generation, different geography, different culture, they can form a bond with anyone, and they start taking that into their everyday life. And I think that's the biggest learning that we have is that just these simple online interaction where people feel a little more safe, especially young people. I hate to say it, but it's true. Some young people feel more safe behind their screens than in real life. But if you can teach them skills through their screens, that they will apply those in real life.
Thank you. Thank you. How about you, Dr. Mitchell?
Well, I prefer actually person to person, right? And because it helps me feel more connected. And again, I love to work with youth in person. And so, but also I think it's also, again, very, very possible to make connections just by looking at someone in the eye, just by acknowledging them, smiling at them, saying something nice about their hair or something that they're wearing. These are little points of connection that are very easy to do, and they also make you feel good. And so there's all kinds of ways to approach this, but when you do it with the heart of making sure that you're connecting, there is an exchange that happens that's just magical for me. And also getting young people involved in ways that they can feel useful, also this intergenerational kinds of things. There's been beautiful connections that happen as a result of that. So there's all kinds of ways to make sure that you are doing what you can, even if you don't run a program, to just help other people. And then when you help other people, you help yourself feel less lonely. You help yourself feel seen, and other people feel seen at the same time.
I'm going to offer another practical tip that I'm hoping is useful. I think it's really important to remove the headwind to seeing people in person as often as you can. Here's what I mean by that. Let's say you have a coffee with a friend. It takes so long to plan. When are you free? What time? Where should we go? There's just a lot of friction potentially of making that plan. Plans change, you need to cancel, then it's so much work, you decide not to do it anymore. It just creates effort. What happens if you create an ongoing and enduring meeting with that friend where you know, I'm making this up, the first Friday of every month, you're going to have coffee. You're making an appointment for yourself that honors the importance of in-person connection, removes the scheduling every single time. And when you identify that one person to enter this like invisible construct, this invisible contract where we're going to meet, if it's not every month, maybe it's every other month, whatever it's going to be. If you float that idea, guess what happens? And Dr. Ruth, by the way, she was genius at this. She had the ability to make everyone around her feel incredibly special. So if you ask a friend, hey, let's kind of do this on the regular, let's put it on our calendars like a recurring invitation, you're actually going to make that other friend feel seen and valued and valuable.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a way of deepening our connections. It's the expression that that other human being is important to you. So that's just one idea. Andy, I'm going to bring you back in and tell us if there's any other questions.
Betsy brought up a few points in the chat about opportunities for elders. And beyond apps, how are we creating other possibilities for older adults who are homebound and with no computer capacity to find those connections?
Dr. Mitchell, I see you nodding. Do you want to go first?
Nodding because I don't have an answer to
Oh, okay.
if they don't have the internet or they're homebound and that kind of thing. I'm not sure how to do that except for if they're known by an organization or a person, to send them coloring books, to send them opportunities to listen to things that inspire and encourage them. Give them something, a little task that they can complete, on their own without help. I just think by thinking creatively about that kind of opportunity, if you know that person, and to meet their needs in ways that they also feel seen without
Thank
having
you.
to leave the
Hold on one
house.
second. I'm going to interrupt you just
Yeah.
for 1 second because I saw Donna's hand went up, went up, went up. So you have something concrete to offer, it seems.
Yes. So from my experience, even when older adults are homebound and they don't have internet, they have a phone. There are several organizations ranging from calling someone else to make their day better to being on call for some sort of a support line where they can volunteer to be someone else's support via the phone. And I can't think of those names off the top of my head, but they exist. And I believe that our friends at Meals on Wheels have some of those resources. So if you're home, you don't have internet.
All right, I'm going to chime in. So I just spoke, I do a lot of public speaking at the DeRote annual benefit. They do exactly what you are describing. D as in David, O, R as in Robert, O, T as in Tom, DeRote. That is one. There are others. So a good portal is to call your local senior center, call your local church, call your local synagogue or mosque. These are the gatekeepers. Well, that's a negative spin. No, not gatekeepers. The point of entry for
Portal.
portal. Thank you. A much better word. Thank you. They are a portal where they will have access to other names of organizations near you. There are many that push in. So this is a hurtful problem. It is a challenge, but it is not new. So please take advantage of the local resources near you as opposed to potentially a national organization because you want someone to come to your home. So the best thing to do is to go local. And I've given you some ideas for doing that. Andy, we have 3 more minutes until we go to our breakout rooms. But what I wanted to do with these 3 minutes is just a reminder, just to level set where we are in this conversation. Donna Griffin is the co-founder and CEO of Eldera. You can stay in touch with her at eldera.ai. You can encourage an older person, 60 and over, to get involved and get their wisdom portrait. If you know a teenager between 13 and 17, they can be a part of the Eldera community. You can learn more on Instagram at eldera.ai. Dr. S. Renee Mitchell, you are the founder of I Am More. The website is IamMoreResilient.com. I feel more resilient having spoken to both of you today. Your Instagram is I Am More Resilient. There was a comment, where else can I find you besides Instagram? If you're not on Instagram, go to the websites. Different organizations may be on LinkedIn. Different organizations may be on Facebook. I'm on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me on Instagram at no, that's not it. It's called It's Allison Gilbert. It's Allison Gilbert. So please stay in touch with me. And with the 2 minutes left, I'm going to remind you for the 20% off discount code for Reimagine Community for the launch of Connected Lives next week at the 92nd Street Y in New York City. It's June 1st. It's a Sunday night. If you go in person, I'll be interviewing the New York Times best-selling author Gretchen Rubin, who just came out with her new book called Secrets of Adulthood. And guess what one of her secrets is? Prioritizing relationships. So that is why I'm interviewing her for the launch. If you come in person, there's a free reception. If you go online, you have access to the great conversation too. But I feel richer. I feel better from having had this great making connections conversation today. I feel lighter. I feel more hopeful. I feel more resilient, Dr. Mitchell. I know a bunch of people who I want to get their wisdom portrait. Donna, I'm so excited. Andy, I'm going to throw it back to you with 1 minute. No minutes left, but back to Andy. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. I will see you in June back here at Making Connections with Reimagine. But Andy, take it back.
Thank you, Allison, for hosting this event and this series. Thank you, Donna Griffin, for your words of wisdom. Thank you, Dr. Renee Mitchell, for your words of wisdom. I hope you can come to our next Making Connections section on June 12th. That registration link will be in the follow-up email along with the recording. And thank you all. And I hope to see you all soon. Take good care, everyone. Stay connected. Bye.
Bye, everyone.